In my last video, I talked about the different ways that we connect to our Judaism through our past and through thoughts of what the future holds, but that those don't really involve our connection to the divine. And we'd like to think maybe this is a new problem. Maybe it's because of our connection to technology that we lose it. But this has been a big problem, and a big problem really throughout Jewish history, of people losing their connection along the way. And I don't know why we don't talk about it more, to acknowledge this lacking that happens, because I think we keep it a secret. We're embarrassed that we don't feel that connection, and so we just wait for it to come back. But it requires being active for it to come back. Now, the reason I know that this happens is because there's easy connection and there's connection that requires work. And that conduit that makes it an easy connection, well, that's like, throughout history at least, that the greatest conduit there ever was the temple, right? Was the Beit HaMikdash in Jerusalem, the holy temple. And you would go in there and you would feel instantly the divine, because his presence was resting on you the moment you walked in. But it got destroyed twice this week in history, on Tisha B'Av, on the 9th of Av. So we're going to commemorate that. Commemorate how we lost that conduit to the divine. And all of this happens on the same date that the spies sinned in the Torah. And the sin of the spies was that they said, yeah, we're not sure Israel's for us. It's not going to be a good idea. God said, but we don't think so. And they denied that amazing conduit of the Holy Land of Israel. And, well, that conduit for me is my favorite conduit to the Almighty. And not being able to go to Israel this summer has been really hard for me, because going to Israel is like date night with the divine. You get there and you instantly feel that connection. Now, it's not always sustainable. The longer you're in Israel, you might not always feel it. But when you get there, or when you go to the wall, and just that feeling, that instant connection. But as I said, on Tisha B'Av, we lost much of those instant conduits. So it's not a new problem. It's a 1,000-year-old problem of not being able to feel the divine so easily and having to work for it. So we mourn that it's not easy to connect. And we're going to mourn that this week. And it's going to be hard. But it also means that we have to acknowledge that we have to do something to make that connection happen. And it's not a passive connection. It's not just saying the words of prayer, and it's not just showing up to synagogue. But if it is for you, well, it's still not that easy right now, because with COVID plus Tisha B'Av, it's like disconnect from everything, disconnect from the easy conduits, disconnect from community, disconnect from family, disconnect. And that means we really have to work actively on that connection. Now, in upcoming videos, I'm going to talk about how we can actively work on that connection. But for today, I want you to think about how on Tisha B'Av, on the 9th of Av, we found ourselves in this place. And we've been mourning the lack of the easy conduit to the divine for 2,000 years. This isn't a new situation we're in. We're not alone, but we are sad. We have always been sad, and we will always be sad about how hard we have to work to connect. But we're going to do it, right? Bye for now.